And now, here's your host of Shaping Success, Wes Tankersley.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Two Nobodies Who Know Nothing. That's what we're going to call this bad boy. I made that. We've talked about it a couple times, Robert, but I feel like we've got to get this going, and we're going to. I tried to get my daughter to make us some caricature logos, but she wouldn't do it. She's just being a little bum. She's like, nope, I only draw anime. So that's where we go.
Well, we can be anime.
I don't know about that. We could give it a whirl. Maybe we get some more views that way, right?
So two nobodies who know nothing.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. I was talking to Jay about it too, and he was like, you know, you and I have gone back and forth about what we should name this thing, but the reality is that someone may have named it for us. You know, I mean, hopefully they don't come after us for copyright infringement.
Yeah, really. I can imagine that. I can imagine the judge looking at it going, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, how's it been? You know, it's starting to get cold here. We're losing leaves. We're getting color here, and frost on the grass and things like that. And you know, how's Texas?
We're just about ready to go from, sticky terrible to, nice. And It's literally this week is the first time we're going to see low temperatures. Been seeing 60-degree runs in the morning, which are nice, a lot better than mid 70s. But it's been slow. I mean, we really haven't had a cold snap yet.
Well, it's weird in Texas too, right? Because you could put your sweatshirt on one day and end up having to take it off and want to be running with no shirt on. Well, not me, but maybe you.
Yeah, no, it's just one of those. Our weather changes at the blink of an eye. So, Good stuff.
Yep. Well, what do you want to chat about today? What do we got going on?
Let's talk about attention. Because my quote this morning was, "If we master our attentions, when we master our attention, we begin to shape our reality." And if we can't master our attention, in other words, we're all over the place. We're, attention deficit disorder. It's very, very hard to get anything done, number one. But number two, have any kind of focus on the things that are meaningful to us. In other words, we let society dictate what's meaningful. We don't.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, this attention, that you bring this up, because my daughter recently was diagnosed with ADHD, and it's funny to me to watch how people can focus on certain things, but they can't focus on other. And then I have a hard time with the fact that, is it ADHD or is it just the reality that we've created with things like this, when all you're doing is trying to do three things at one time. And I tout a lot of times that I can do that because I can multitask. It's like I'm driving, I'm listening to a book, I'm making a quote, I'm trying to do all these different things at one time. But the reality is there's no such thing as multitasking. You really are giving attention to certain things, and you're not very good at doing that to all of them, right?
Yeah, the ultimate multitasker is a pilot, because we're literally paying attention to the feel of our aircraft. We're paying attention to the instruments. We're paying attention to traffic, meaning we're looking, kind of scanning the horizon, and we're also listening to the traffic in our ears. So there's a lot of things. And so what we do is we selectively and very quickly switch attentions, right? We keep rotating through them. I found it interesting, because you're a big baseball fan. So here's the difference between growing up in your era and my era. We really didn't have sports radio. We only had 5 channels on TV. 2 were UHF and VHF. So There was really nothing, the idea of sports. Sports was a 3 or 4 minute block at the end of the 30-minute local news. So how I got sports was the newspaper was delivered in the morning, and I would go out to check on my favorite players. And I didn't think about this until the other day when our power went out. And so our power goes out, and I sat there for a second and I went, wow, how peaceful this is. There was this incredible silence and no sound of a refrigerator. There was no technology. Of course, my phone and my computer and stuff all have backups. It's not that. But I just sat in that silence and I remembered back to being the kid that ran out, being 8 and 9 years old, running out to see the box scores in the
Mm-hmm.
newspaper, and how much joy I took in looking down the box score to see how they did, right? And joy was so segmented, it wasn't overlapping. In other words, there wasn't any of this idea of layered things. Everything was very selective, meaning, okay, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to go run, get the paper, right?
Yep.
I'm going to stare at the box store. Everything was immersive because there wasn't anything else. Looking at anything else as a kid at 6 o'clock in the morning, the sports section out. I wasn't worried about anything else. I was sitting there staring at the box scores. And I thought about how much joy there is in being selective with our intention.
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, I had talked about this the other day. I had to get a new phone, but before I got a new phone, I tried to fix the old one. You know, like I went in and I got the charging port cleaned out because that was where the problem was. I couldn't get the phone to charge, and um, I sat down and I realized that, you know, I need to. The lady goes, "Well, I need it for an hour." I'm like, "Okay, whatever, no big deal. I got my iPad. I'll go in my car. I'll go grab some lunch. I'll go sit in my car for a while and eat lunch and do work on my iPad." I didn't think about it at the time, but my iPad is not a Wi-Fi iPad. So without my phone, my iPad is nothing. So it's literally needs the Wi-Fi, right? And here I am. I grab my lunch and I sit down and I realize that I have to sit here and I have to eat lunch and I have to be in the moment and I have to, you know, eat lunch silently, not without any distractions. You know, like I could turn the radio on in the car, but like there was nothing and I couldn't. You know, as my mind's thinking of this, you know, you're sitting there like, oh yeah, I wonder about this. And then you Google it or you watch TikTok or you do something like you're entertaining yourself while you're taking a break. And I couldn't believe how like crazy in my mind it was making me for the fact that I just didn't have this thing that I had all the time. And that's where we're at. Like that's it. It's like you said, there's no in the moment. There's no like, all right, paper got dropped off. I remember going and getting the paper just like you're talking about, doing the exact same thing. Walking out to the mailbox, grabbing the newspaper, reading the comics, reading the sports section. Maybe there was the sports section at the time was cool to me because there was a good chance that I could be in it. You know, like it's during football season and there might be a picture of me blocking while our quarterback's throwing, you know, like there was all those things, but it's so crazy. And that's why I brought up the ADHD thing is like, do we really have ADHD or do we just have a problem with stimulus in our minds?
And it's funny because I designed a new app and I'm just in the beta phase. And the it's called Game Changer. And its idea is to divide your stuff to do into kind of three big categories. In other words, action blocks. What are my appointments and the things that I'm required to do today? Leverage points, which are the things I need to do every day to build, like working out, taking my vitamins, whatever they may be. These are things that you need to do every day so that they compound. And then the big projects that you got to do, like trying to get into a PhD program, it has lots of different layers to it. And so when you open up your phone, it reminds you the big things in life, your intentions, like what am I trying to do with my family? How am I connecting my mind, body? Big things. They just flash the page up in front of you. And then you immediately go to these action blocks these are the commitments I have for today. These are my leverage points and these are my projects. And that's what you see on your screen. So you can keep coming back to it over and over again because it's not a to-do list. Okay. It's not something you just mark off because the leverage points, you can decide to do them or not do them, but they're the things that you need to compound every day. Like, did I listen to my audiobook? Did I read? Did I meditate? Did I row? Did I stretch? I mean, all these things are options for you. You don't have to do them, but they build in your life this power of compounding. Like my runs are on my leverage point, even though, I've been doing it for 3,889 straight days. Okay, but that kind of consistency builds power in your life. And then you needed some place to build long-term projects. In other words, how can I see what I'm doing? And I know what I'm doing is like fill in a giant puzzle. I've got to do it in multiple pieces. But this way, I'm getting my attention back.
Right.
and I'm deciding where it goes. And I'm deciding what's important every day. I decide, and so I'm not taking the power away like a to-do list. I'm actually giving you the power back.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you want to be? What do you want to try to accomplish? And I realized when I started to find an app for my phone, there wasn't one that existed. So I had to create it
Yeah.
because everything's either a to-do list or a calendar. Now, inside mine, I have a calendar. I have the same things that everybody else does, but it's what we set our attention on that's so important because I can flip up this list and go, okay, I don't have anything to do until 10:30. I need to start marking things off my leverage list. Okay,
Yeah.
I need to start taking care of things that are going to compound. You flip down and look at projects and go, oh yeah, I need to make some progress on this too. And so what it does is it does what your normal silence would do.
Mm-hmm.
Is silence would cause you to order your mind. Okay, we don't have silence anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no way to order your mind. There's no way to take that moment to sort things out. So now you literally have to have something to go, here, do this next.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Or I'll do the same thing you would do, right? I'd wander off a bunny trail.
Yeah. It's crazy. And that's it. It's like when I started doing some stuff, like obviously my situation has changed in the last couple of months and I'm working for someone else, but I'm kind of lost, like I'm trying to figure out what to do because I'm on someone else's timeline. I'm not on my timeline. So I don't have as many appointments as I would like to have. I don't have as many appointments as I had at my previous job, but I have a lot more than I had with my own business. And so, I have these things to do, but I'm trying to get other things done and I can't, and they don't happen in the order. So then you just get distracted. You get lost. It's like, what am I going to do with my time? And I'm having to reevaluate that. And my wife is freaking out because, there's just not enough business. So now I'm trying to fit things in there and it's like, okay, should I go get another job? Should I supplement my income with this income? It's enough, but I need more because I can't get ahead based on what I have now. I need to get ahead. I have to have more business. So it's like all those things start to distract you and start to change the way you think. And then all of a sudden you go down that rabbit hole like you're talking about. Squirrel. Oh, there's the phone, and you end up like doom scrolling on TikTok or, doing things that just don't, watching TV, things like that. And I've got to learn to prioritize that and figure out how to, make things happen. But when you're waiting on other people, it's really tough to do that. And you start to lose focus again,
Well, it's fascinating. Once I started putting this app into play, and remember I'm in beta, so I've got a few little tweaks that left to be done on it. I'll do them at the end of the week. But once I pass it through Apple, I'll give you access to it because it's very, very cool. And what I've noticed, and this is the fun thing, is all of a sudden I'm not on TikTok, Instagram, and anywhere anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I even forget to respond to my comments because guess what? I'm no longer finding things to do with my mind. I'm literally going from one thing to the next in kind of an orderly manner. And I even put meditation in to quiet my mind even more twice a day. Just ready? 9 minutes.
Yep.
9. Not 9 hours or 90 minutes or 9 minutes twice a day. And what it does is it slows you down so much. And it just feels as so amazing control that you have in your life. And you're not doom scrolling and you're not sitting. Because one of the things I would do is I would get on the internet and I would start chasing an idea, right? And I would be 15 pages or searches into an idea. Well, guess what? I don't do that anymore either because I'm literally directing myself to the next thing. And it's like, okay, I'm taking my attention back.
Meditation's a great thing too. I don't know that I need to do a little more research into meditation myself because I've done it. Like my uncle at one point sent me this thing that was like just like you said, 9 minutes. It's like 5-minute meditation or whatever. Taking that time to refocus and recalibrate your brain, it doesn't take that long. When you think of meditation, a lot of people will sit there and think they got to spend an hour or multiple hours, that kind of stuff. But really it's about breathing and oxygenating your brain and and refocusing and recentering. And you could do it in as little as 5 minutes. It may take you more, but it doesn't take an hour. It doesn't take a big chunk out of your day, you know?
No, it's really, again, fascinating. So this morning, before this, I had 10 minutes before this. So I had enough time to do my 9-minute meditation. And because I got my mind quiet, I popped back out of meditation and only 5 minutes had elapsed.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, wow. Okay. So I went right back in for 4 more minutes before my alarm went off so that I could get ready for this. But it is fascinating once you start taking control. You start going, well, number one, I'm happier. Number two, I don't get everything done. I'll be honest. I don't. I can keep track of the statistics. I probably are getting 90% of my leverage points done every day, but it's not 100. And I don't get upset about it because I realize those are choices I make. And I'm making them consciously. I'm not making them unconsciously anymore, right? Like I just run out of day.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
I'm making choices.
Yeah, the key to it though is if you really think about it, is that if you have plot points on your day and you can do it however you want. Like one of the things that I sit there and I look at my calendar and it's empty. If it's empty, it's like there's no plot point. So what is my plan for the day? I have no plan. If I have no plan, what's going to get accomplished? Nothing, because you're just throwing everything in there all willy-nilly, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, I got to do that. Okay, I'm over here. Oh, I got to do that. Okay, I'm over here. You know, like you have no goal. And it's like I'm looking at my calendar today, and I have 2 appointments. That's literally all I have. So now in my brain, I'm trying to think, okay, what can I do to fill that time? You know, what am I going to do with that extra time? And so it's tough, but I'm going to have to figure that out. And it becomes like check in with this person, go do this, go do that, you know, do some networking. But like you're throwing it in there. And if you don't have a plan, then what's keeping you structured? And I think a lot of people don't have structure. They want something, they want to achieve a goal, but they have no ladder of success, you know, no way to take that next step, no stair steps, no, you know, nothing in front of you. So,
and that's where I think the power of this app is, because if you have gotten all your action blocks done and you've got all your leverage points done for the day, you still have the projects that you've got on there that you can make progress on your projects. So it's like you are directing your mind to, like you said, I have 2 appointments. Those are your action blocks. You have these 9 things that you want to do every day to progress and move forward in your life. And you say, I've got all those 9 done. Then you look down at your bigger projects and you go, you know what? I still have to make progress on the fence in the backyard. Well, okay, there you go. And you know what to do next.
Yeah. And if you have it there too, like the other thing is like if you have a list of what you're supposed to do and you've gotten through that as well, you can always look forward to the next day too if you have more time. And then you can also reset the next day because you're like, well, this doesn't take an hour to do. This takes 30 minutes. Let's add another thing in there. Let's find another part of the process.
That's it. And that's the thing is you hit it on it, process, right? We talk about structure because structure almost feels rigid.
Right.
Okay. But process, on the other hand, feels fluid. And what you're really talking about is yes, you are talking about structure, but it's the structure of a process. It's in other words, how do I gin through the day? Because I know left to my own devices, just like eating habits, right? What do you eat? Pop open your refrigerator, figure out what you eat. It's what's in front of your face.
Right.
And so the thing is, if you don't create a process for making good choices, if you don't create a process for getting up and doing the things you want to do, there won't be a process. Absent a process, you will just go wherever your attention. And the media and all of any kind of commercial enterprises are trying to get your attention.
Yep.
And so if you don't have your attention, they'll get it.
Yep. Yeah, it's a hard time to be in the moment with anything. That's just the way that it rolls. I mean, there are so many distractions no matter what way you go. It's kind of funny. I'm going to say, I don't mean to bring up politics, but I'm going to bring up politics. I don't mean to. I mean to, because that's what I'm going to do. But a couple weeks ago we had this No Kings rally, right? And they're talking about the amount of people who showed up for this No Kings rally, and all the media is showing you is this is the way that everyone feels, right? But they're not telling you the data points of how many people actually showed up for this No Kings rally. And what you're finding out is that it's like 0.002% or 0.2% or whatever. I mean, that's a big difference, but it's a very minimal amount compared to the rest of the country who are doing all these other things, but they're shoving in your face that this is the way that it's going. And people are lost because they think if you saw the stuff on the media and you don't really dive into it and you don't know about the numbers, what you're seeing is that everyone in the country feels this way, right? That there's no kings, and that's not it. And that's the problem. It's not even just, that's one point, but there's a lot of things in our life where everyone are making it the bigger picture when in reality it's a small point of your life. And I had the Toxic Pirate on here the other day. We did a interview. He's a friend of mine on TikTok, and he was talking about how we don't get in the moment anymore. We spend all our time looking at everything else, but the reality is what you have control over is the way that you feel. And if you allow yourself to saturate with that meaning, that 2% of people in this country, you're lost. I listen to my dad talk about it, how pissed off he is about the world and the way the politics are going and all the people who are doing this and this and this. And I'm sitting there going, Dad, you're having a conversation with me right now. Let's talk about something. Let's talk about the kids. Let's talk about your work day. Let's talk about how things are going with your life and my life, because we can control that, but we can't control that narrative that is getting pressed towards us.
It's funny, a friend of mine in the intelligence community gave me a call about the No Kings rally, and I said, what's up? And he said, so do you think people really believe the BS about how many people are out for these rallies? And I said, is there a point you're trying to make? He said, yeah, because we monitor that. I said, of course you do. And I said, what's it look like? He said, somewhere between a quarter and a tenth of what's reported is actually out there.
Yeah.
And I said, is that pretty much across the board? He said, yeah, some might get a little better than a quarter. But he said somewhere between a quarter and a tenth. So that's between 10 and 25% of what's reported is actually on the street. And I said, wow.
You look at those things, no matter what they are. You look at a protest, okay? And you think about, like, no matter what the protest is, it doesn't have to be No Kings Rally. It could be something else. It could be, I don't know. A protest in general, right? And you look at the cities that they have them in, and usually they are a more progressive city, right? And then the reality is, like, you look at Boise. Everyone was talking about there was thousands of people at this No Kings protest in Boise at the Capitol. And then you're sitting there going, okay, thousands. I can't remember what the population of Boise is, but it's well over 100,000. So you got thousands of 100,000. Even if it's more than that, there's not that many people there. You really have to think about the amount of people who are complaining about something. And we forget that 50% of the country voted one way and 50% country voted the other way. That's how slim pickings it is. So you have to realize that these rallies that these people are coming out here, the people who are in the right mind, more towards the middle, right, which is there's like, I feel like if you look at it in the rally thing, there's 2% over here way right and 2% over here way left, but everyone else is kind of just bunched in the middle. Yeah. It's just crazy that we let that be shown, because that's what sells, right? Media sells the things that are bad because that's what people straight go to. Are you in the grocery line when you're a kid? Are you looking at the National Choir, or are you looking at the Argus Observer was the newspaper in my town? But it's like, oh no, you're over there. What did so and so do? You're like, look, there's aliens. It's. I'm gonna date myself because no one probably knows what the National Choir is anymore. Think of TMZ.
Yeah, that's funny. I was reading a book the other day, and my girlfriend looked at me and she said, "Why do you have that strange look on your face?" And I said, "Well, because the author has decided to make a bunch of assertions that he doesn't back up with evidence. And the funny part about it is, guy happens to actually be a federal judge." I said, and it's curious to me that he would make assertions without evidence, but that's okay. And she goes, well, you don't agree with what he's saying. I said, no. And she said, you're still reading the book. I said, I read things that I disagree with all the time because that doesn't mean they don't have insight.
Yeah.
In this case, it was about the Russian war in Ukraine. And he spends a lot of time going back and forth between Russia and the United States. So he has real insight. Now, I don't agree with his assertion about the war, but that doesn't matter. He has real insight into certain things that I really want to read. And her point was, you really do read stuff that you don't agree with. I said, all the time.
Yeah.
I said, I need to understand what people believe and see. It's not. And the other part I think is most important is I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to know what
No, you can't be wrong.
Oh no, I could very well be wrong.
That
So
doesn't
I
work.
need to keep the other values in there in this system. I need to be able to know what they are. So at a point in time where I go, you know what? After more evidence, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And that person was actually right. That's interesting to me.
The hardest part in the one word, like we used to sit there and when I was in fifth grade, I remember Mrs. Dinsmore, my fifth grade teacher, would make us learn a new vocabulary word every day. And she would write it on this card and then it would go up on the wall. And these are our vocabulary words every single day for the whole year. Like you'd go through that and then they'd be like something we'd do in a spelling test or we'd have like tests on them or whatever. But at one point she threw up the word objective. Mm-hmm. And you don't know what objective is. But the way that they always talked about it was the media is supposed to be objective. Now, you and I have had this conversation before. I don't necessarily know that the media has ever been objective because they always reach one way or the other. But it used to be, just like you said, okay, here's a story. Picnic tables are round, okay? Now they would go out and they'd be like, okay, picnic tables are round today, and we're going to go look and see how many of this has actually happened or whatever and talk about the round picnic table, right? And then they go out and they find out that, 75% of picnic tables are rectangle, right? Not round. And you're like, oh my gosh. Well, they would go and they'd do the research. They'd look through the data. They'd comb through it. And then they'd come back in and say, contrary to popular belief, picnic tables are mostly rectangle, not round. Like they'd actually do the research. Now they just go and see, oh, there's a round picnic table. They're all round.
Confirmation bias. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And that is exactly what you're trying to do with some issue of objective reporting. All you're simply saying, and that's why we've always went with the issue of boots on the ground, because it's a lot harder to argue with somebody who goes, I was there.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, how was this situation? Well, now, remember, I have one vantage point, and my vantage point was this, and this is what I saw. You can't argue with me about what I saw. You can say that another guy on the other side saw something else. Sure, you're welcome to do that, but please don't question what I saw because, I'm actually standing there. That's the idea of reporting now has been, we're not going to have anybody standing there and we're just going to talk about what we think happened.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do you do that? Old reporting used to be what? Embedded reporters. Reporters were standing there with a microphone, good or bad. You always see the weather reporter, right, in the hurricane, standing with the microphone going, we're here and the winds are about 80 miles an hour. And their clothing's blowing and everything. And you believe them because why? They're standing there.
You can see it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's, again, we'll wind this up here, but like you can wind this down here, but like you can sit here and you can see, you look at a picture and then that's what they show you. They show you the focused picture. But if you zoom out, what do you really see? And that's what that's the main thing that I want people to know is that life, no matter what you do, you have to zoom out. You have to look at the bigger picture because you're so laser focused on what's right in front of you, but you don't really look what's around you. And that's where we have to come.
Very
That's
true.
Where we have to be.
Very true.
Yeah. Well, Robert, thanks for joining us. Thank you, Nikki, and everyone else in the chat room for hanging out. We appreciate you being here. If you are listening to this on Apple Podcasts, please make sure to like, share, review, subscribe on YouTube. There is a Patreon. I'll have to figure out what it is. I remember what it is. I don't know if it's at Wes Tankersley or patreon.com/Wes Tankersley or patreon.com/shaping success. But this is our podcast that Robert and I do. We will be working on a logo. Two nobodies who know nothing.
That's right.
So
our problem is we got to get the logo down first.
Yeah, we got to figure that out so we can look at it. We've been working on it for a couple of years now, but we'll get her handled. And
that's it. Perfect.
We will see you guys next time. Thanks for hanging out.
Have a wonderful week.